Listen. Welcome to the LME live stream here on this Letterboxd Mondays, where we pretty much just, relax, chill, and log in some of the movies that came out this past week. And this time around, we're going to be breaking them down by the streaming service, since I know everybody, has a different streaming service. There's like a dozen that are coming out every single time. But as always, I'm joined by my boy Zach and the live stream as well. What's up, Zach?
Hey, Art. Nice to be here again. Letterboxd Mondays, just catching up with what you've been seeing, what I've been seeing, what people are seeing, the cool stuff, the good stuff, the bad stuff, everything that's out there.
Pretty much everything that's coming out. We do have a good amount that's still coming out, I want to say. But I want to start off with the ones that I had mentioned right in the thumbnail. These are the three highlights of the week, in my opinion. The Climb, which we both saw, and I know we'll be talking a little bit more about it on Intercut. But there's two that actually came out on at South by. One came out at South by last year, called Who Let the Dogs Out. And then this one came out this year, The Donut King, and I was able to catch both. And they're now both out over on Hulu. Hoopla. Hooplas. But yeah, let me log in. Who Let the Dogs Out first, because this was pretty funny. I was able to catch this one, like I said, last year at South by Southwest. It's a very short movie. I don't know if it's got the time over here. It's extremely short, and it is exactly what it says it's about. It's about who let the dogs out. An hour 10. Very short. So you pretty much have this director who followed this guy who runs this presentation about this mystery of who may in fact let the dogs out. And I think it's interesting, not only because of the way that he's able to take this presentation that this dude did while he was out there, but he's also able to kind of get to a lot of sampling things that may have come about with the writing of the song, who may actually get the attribution to or the credits of who may have written the song, and it may or may not answer the question of who let the dogs out. I found it to be pretty enjoyable. Like I said, it's pretty short. It's out on Hulu and Hoopla, like I said, so if you wanted to give this one a shot, I highly recommend it. I thought it was pretty funny, and if you don't like it, like I said, it's an hour 10. It passes by pretty quickly. Another one.
Yeah, I remember you recommending that one to me. It was maybe your favorite documentary that you saw at South by last year.
It might have been, mainly because I just think the premise is so funny, but I can see a lot of people just shrugging it off. But like I said, it's a perfect stream it movie, so if you're streaming it, I would give it a junior price, but I mean, when it's streaming, so I'm curious to see what more people think about it. Another one that I'm really curious to see what people think about that's also out. And I like this one because when South by closed down and they had to go with like their alternative streaming platform thing that they were doing, they didn't really give out too many movies. But these guys really, they gave out theirs, and I thought it was really cool. This is the story of an empire of donuts that happened over on the West Coast, that pretty much a lot of Cambodian immigrants were coming over, and this one dude pretty much built a dynasty. Like, he's the man who was able to change everything to become the pink box that everybody knows. I'm curious if they actually have a picture of it over on IMDb, but yeah, this like pink box. He realized that through this, he's gonna be able to save on money, and then it became like a cultural phenomenon. I really like the movie and what it says about like helping others around you, because he was an immigrant. He wanted to use this donut dynasty that he was creating to help others as well. But because of that, one of our favorite movies is First Cow, and the capitalistic things that he needed to do to get there, I think may have made some enemies along the way, but it makes for a pretty crazy documentary, and I would highly recommend it. I really enjoyed this one. And now, like I said, it's not coming up over here on the Just Watch, but I had it opened over here. It is over on Hoopla, like I had mentioned. So if you got yourself a library card, you could check this one out for free as a stream it. I would give it a junior price as well, so you can stream it for free. I would highly recommend it. Let's see some of the other ones that I had over here. Also dealing with some of the VODs that are out. Try to pull it up. I believe Hoopla also had Peninsula, for those who have seen it. But I'll be making a whole video on that as well. Some of the other VODs, as I pull it up right here, is The Climb. Now, I know this one played at a couple of festivals. Like, it was playing at a variety of places. But personally, I knew about it at Sundance. We were able to get a screener for it. Zach, I'll see if you're still there.
Yeah.
Describe this movie.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because I think it debuted at Cannes 2019 and kind of made its way around the festivals. It was a big hit at Telluride 2019, and then ultimately it was coming to Sundance as kind of like one of those premieres before its actual premiere. It was
Yeah.
supposed to come out in theaters, I think in March,
Hmm.
and then got delayed and delayed and delayed, but finally is out, and it's a really interesting movie. I liked it quite a bit. Uh, what did you think? I know you. I haven't been able to talk to you about it since you got to see it.
Yeah, I know we're gonna be saying more over on Intercut, but I think the
Yeah,
less you know about this one, the better. Like I knew
right.
nothing other than it's two friends who are climbing up a mountain, and then one reveals a pretty big thing to the other person,
Yeah.
and it ends up becoming this whole kind of like an epic. I really like the writing in it. I think the writing is much stronger than the performances in the movie, but there's a lot of like comedy that's delayed, if that makes any sense. Like the punchline happens later. They're more focused on the drama on the first watch, and then they want you to like go back and rewatch it to notice all of the little comedic bits that they have there. So I actually ended up enjoying it quite a bit. I would also give this one on the first watch a 3.5, but I think it's going to go a little bit higher. I'm looking forward to rewatching this one once it's available for purchase because I think right now it's just doing the virtual cinema at the moment.
Yeah, it's a really interesting story of this like toxic friendship, and how
Hmm.
it develops over the years. And I feel like what's interesting in this kind of movie, you maybe have had stories about, you know, about romantic relationships that show you how they develop over many, many years. But this is so much centered on, a friendship between these two guys and how they go through their ups and downs. And I thought that was a kind of interesting twist on something that might feel otherwise more familiar.
Agreed. Another one that we were able to catch that they were gracious enough to give us a screener for. Another one that played at Sundance called The Nest. Highly recommend this one right here from Sean Durkin. Zach, you got to interview Sean Durkin back in the day.
Yeah, I interviewed him back when he made his first movie Martha, Marcy, May, Marlene, way back in 2010. Both of us were much younger. He had a lot more hair. It was a really cool experience, and I like that movie quite a bit. It has this mystery to it, this unsettling nature. The ending is really great. So I've been anticipating some kind of follow up for him for quite a while, and took him long enough, but we got it this year. I was able to be there at Sundance to catch it,
Hmm.
and I know that you caught it more recently.
Yeah, so I've only seen it once. I want to see this one multiple times. I think both of the performances are fantastic. I know a lot of people were hyping up Carrie Coon. Kills it. But this man in the back, you cannot ignore the contributions that he gave to this movie. I know that Sean Durkin himself kind of went through what's going on in the plot about this family where she's American, he's from the UK, and while they start off living in America, he wants to move them back over there for a business opportunity. And Sean Durkin also was living, in the States and back in the UK, and a lot of it you can tell is very much based off of his childhood. He said it as well. So that's why it feels very lived in, and I take it he would, relate a lot to the child, and just kind of like what would be a very dysfunctional family and how they're lying to each other. But you kind of stick through it. I love the performances. I love the dialogue. I can't wait to catch this one again. Big ups from me.
Yeah, Carrie Coon and Jude Law are both so good in this movie. I mean,
Hmm.
Carrie Coon, we've been fans of for a bit. She just holds your attention so well as this woman going through this kind of like breakdown. But I think this is kind of one of those perfect roles for a guy like Jude Law,
Hmm.
who has this outer appearance of being so like suave and charming, but like it is so much weaker under the surface.
Yep.
And he plays that very well here.
Yeah, I need to rewatch Martha, Marcy May, Marlene because I mean it's literally been a decade. The amount of time that it's taken this man to direct another one, but yeah, no, that's one that I definitely want to revisit, and because I'm sure I'm gonna like it way more. Another one that's out on VOD, just to give it a shout out. I was able to catch this one at TIFF. Hugo Weaving has a new movie called Hearts and Bones, sorry, where he plays a photographer and he's pretty much going back to the people where he shot this like Sudanese. I believe it was a couple because I'd seen this one at TIFF last year, and he's pretty much kind of relating back to them and the effects of his job. I related this a lot to that picture of the photographer who I believe won the Nobel Peace Prize of the kid with the crow, the vulture right behind it. It's got a lot of that energy and where he feels guilty for having captured these photos, and he kind of wants to go back and do something about the atrocities that he caught, but he may have not done much about. And it's really about these two guys, these two men who like learn from each other. I thought it was a decent rent it, so if it piques your interest, I would recommend it. That one's out on VOD, like I said. Another one, if you wanted a scary movie that doesn't have too much supernatural in it, but nonetheless, it's still pretty creepy. Kindred. I know a lot of people were talking about Antebellum earlier this year. Not a lot of people like that one. And I had mentioned the book, Kindred. This has nothing to do with that Kindred, with that property,
Yeah,
which I hope.
I
Yeah.
thought that was very confusing.
No, sir. No, this is a British movie with British actors, but it is an interracial couple at the forefront, but it doesn't really cover race too much. It covers more class. And the director was talking about the craziness that they have to go through over there in the UK, where they got to pay 40% tax, inheritance tax. So pretty much you are punished if you are rich, I guess, passing it on to the next generation. And it's not so much punishment, but more so like how strict they want you to be with class over there. Like they make it damn near impossible. I don't know the ins and outs of the UK, but after seeing this movie, I really don't want to either. There's a lot that goes on in here because she ends up being pregnant. Her husband may not be around anymore, but the mother-in-law or the mother-in-law to be may or may not be trapping her inside the house because she really wants, the what would be the next generation, the inheritance, the baby that's in her, to be hers completely. I like the performances in the movie. I would recommend it if it was on streaming, though, but just wanted to put it out there in case it piqued your interest. It is out on VOD. I think it was a solid 3 stars, mainly because of the performances from Tamara Lawrence. One of the other ones that's out, and I know both of us caught this one at some of the festivals, and now it's on VOD, is Monsoon. Once this one loads up over here, if you want to talk about that one.
Yeah, this is one that I believe we both caught at New Fest a few weeks ago, not even that long ago. And it's an interesting story starring Henry Golding as this man who is returning to the country of his birth, Vietnam, but hasn't been there in many, many years, and sort of tries to learn a little bit more about his family's past and find and about the country that he's from. And it's this interesting culture clash that talks a little bit about sort of the legacy of what the Vietnam War has done, and the how that's impacted people, and how some people don't want to be defined by that. It also gives you that through the lens of this American that Henry Golding's character starts to date. And it's just this very peculiar, very gentle story about a man sort of searching for identity.
Yeah, I thought it was a pretty good movie, mainly because of the experience that Henry Golding brings to it. So I thought that aspect of it was pretty good. But nonetheless, I would also save it for a stream. And I think once it comes out in one of the services, I think it'd definitely be worth the watch. And I'm curious to see how people connect to that one. One that I guess is a little bit different, but nonetheless still tries to cover that heartfelt story, is Ludacris's new movie. Not to be confused with Chloe Zhao's the writer, but I can't even pop it up here. It's not even appearing. Maybe if I search up Ludacris. Ludacris.
Yeah, sort by actor.
Let me see. Once it appears. Someone also let me know that there is 2 different live streams going on, so that is hilarious. Hopefully you're watching the right one. Because we're talking about some
I'm not
hot
sure
movies.
your chat is even connected to the main chat.
I don't believe. I believe the chats are disconnected. That's why they're not updating. But I still think I could pop up some questions over here, nonetheless.
Yeah, I've been keeping track.
All right, for sure. Anyways, we were able to find it. The Ride, starring Ludacris Bridges. This is actually based off a true story. Had no idea about this BMX legend who would be this middle guy over here. Pretty much, this guy. He was living American History X, and we're talking when he was just a tiny kid, ends up being locked up, and it isn't until later when 2 parents decide to adopt him. This is the real guy, I think, or this may be the director, but the real guy is also in the movie as well. He is able to get out, and Ludacris, and I think her name is Sasha Alexander, I'm not exactly sure the actress's name, but they adopt him. Considering his upbringing, he doesn't want to go with Ludacris. So it's kind of like a Blindside type tale, It's that feel-good movie.
Kind of in reverse?
Kind of in reverse, yeah, and because it is Ludacris who's trying to teach him how to ride a bike, how to, eventually, gain the knowledge and the skills for this passion that he doesn't even know that he has. But at the same time, Ludacris is in a completely different movie. He's making egotistical clapbacks that don't really fit the tone of the, there's like an orchestra playing in the background and Ludacris is over here like, nah, yo mama. But at the same time, it does this thing with its like reveals that are so corny, because there's this one moment where the kid's gonna figure out stuff from the past, but it's like, does it really need to be in a note that lets, like a cut up newspaper article that tells you everything you need to know, and that article is within a box, and it's like locked up. It's not even locked up, it's like right there in the office to kind of just move the story along. It's pretty corny, it's pretty cliche, but again, it's based off of a true story, so I'm sure that there is a book or an autobiography that will be done later on that may be more detailed, that may get to the emotions more. But I would say to wait for this one for when it comes out on Amazon Prime, because I think right now it's just available for VOD. Let me see. One of the other ones, wrapping up the VODs over here before we get to the other streaming services, is this little movie called The Dark Divide. Try to get back to it. I was able to catch this one because of the St. Louis Film Festival that covers themselves as SLIF, St. Louis International Film Festival. But SLIF is a very ugly name. They got to change that. The Dark Divide. It stars David Cross, and it's about this guy who went on this crazy trek. He's written multiple books, but the guy's name was Robert Pyle, and here he plays a lepidopterist, I believe is how you say the word. He studies butterflies, but he's also kind of looking for Bigfoot, and that was one of the things that the real life dude was searching for as he did this crazy trek over on South Washington. But here it's David Cross, and David Cross decides to get naked for most of the movie because he's also mourning the loss of his wife. And yeah, that's the journey. It's a documentarian turned feature film director who's worked with a lot of firefighters, so he kind of knows a lot about this area over here. But I will say the craziest thing, I didn't love the movie, and I'm sure the books that this guy has written get into more of, than just the crazy journey that he goes on here. The place where they filmed is the exact same place where the real dude actually went on his journey.
That's pretty cool.
That place is on fire right now.
Well, that's less cool.
That's also an aspect that they kind of cover in the movie, this idea of like, are they pushing so many trees to be grown, to be knocked out, that it ends up coming up against these power lines, and really there is someone to blame, but nobody wants to blame those people. To me, that was the wildest thing, listening to the interviews about, they got the opportunity to film there and nobody else may, so that kind of sucks. But yeah, if you were curious in this, I think it's maybe too much David Cross pulling a Breaking Bad in his whitey tighties, but nonetheless it is there. And I'm curious to know if you actually read more of the actual guy's stuff, what you think about the adaptation. But let's move over to some Netflix stuff, unless you have some thoughts on this one.
No, just interesting to see David Cross in a role like this.
Right? A little, yeah. But he was talking about, he's like, I never go for the Oscar roles, but it's like, if I ever did go for one, it would have to be something that's like half comedic, but he knows that the Oscars never appreciate comedy. And he's like, I pay attention to the Emmys, and I hate when the Emmys nominate stuff for writing. And then he just cuts himself off. He's like, never mind, I don't want to get too much into this. So he's like, I just ruined my chances if I ever wanted to get into award season or anything like that. But yeah, right. He's not really one of the actors that you think of when it comes to that, but I don't think he's a bad performer. He just, he approaches everything from his comedic level. Talk about this one, because you got to catch this one over on Netflix right now.
Yeah, The Life Ahead. It's an interesting new movie on Netflix, an Italian film starring Sophia Loren. I think it's her first movie in, Art, do you know, like 10 years or something like that? And interestingly, she is appearing in this movie that's directed by her son, Eduardo Ponte. So it's a family project. She is this Holocaust survivor who used to be a hooker and has since become this sort of babysitter, nanny kind of figure for different people in this Italian community. A doctor comes to her hoping to have her look after this young boy, and they develop a reluctant friendship through it all. And that sounds very kind of stereotypical and a little bit cheesy, but I think it's the performances that really take this one over the top. Really great performance from both Sophia Loren and I believe Ibrahim Maguire, main boy. They just bring a level of charisma and authenticity to their performances that I think carries this one over the top and makes it really good. It makes you really buy that transition that they have from not being comfortable with each other to growing to love one another.
Era la prima volta che qualcuno
I
mi
found it
trattava
interesting
come
seeing
una
him go
persona
back and
degna di
forth because he
fiducia.
would like argue with his mom a lot about the performances that he wanted in the behind the scenes. And I love the quote that he said. He's like, if your mom just so happens to be one of the greatest actresses of all time, how could you not have?
Devi darmi una mano
Yeah,
perché da
pretty
solo non
cute
ce la
movie
faccio.
over on Netflix. Check it out if you are interested. Netflix had a couple of other stuff. Well, there was another Mother.
L'umanità è solo una virgola nel grande libro della vita.
Mother that is
Quando
nominated
Madonna
for
mi guardavo con i suoi grandi occhi gialli,
submission for Spain.
non era una virgola.
But Japan's Mother this time around. For fans of Florida Project, some may say that this is like the
Al
Japanese
grande
version of
libro,
that.
tutto insieme.
But it was a miserable, just absolutely depressing tale about this mother named Akiko and her son, and you kind of see them throughout different passages of their life. Her parents don't want her around because they think that she's just going to gamble things away. She may have a lot of promiscuous relationships that she's going through, but her son's always there for her, and they have this very codependent relationship, and they really push this idea throughout the movie of like something may happen, you know, because of how much they push each other. Like I said, I thought it was absolute great performances, but by the end of it, you feel absolutely miserable. And I would still give it a junior price. It's done so well, but it's like these characters, they continue to find themselves in these scenarios over and over and over again. Again, that's credit to the director of like pushing it to the point that he's making the audience very uncomfortable. But it's like he's having you see what a lot of these, you know, like the Florida Project, where they're not really judging the mother, but it doesn't mean that everything that's happening is, you know, perfect. She's just trying to get by the only way she knows how. And that may not be the most motherly way, I guess, that we may think of off the top. But yeah, I'm curious to see other people's thoughts. Again, I can't like say I want to recommend it, but I did think it was a very, very well done film about these two's relationship and where that progresses to. And I know some people are going to hate the ending, but nonetheless, putting it on the radar. It is over on Netflix. Curious to see how people perceive it, what people take from it.
I'm interested how many people will just watch this on accident thinking it's like the Darren Aronofsky Mother or the Bong Joon-ho Mother or just like any of the other popular films called Mother.
Tell me why it... And even then, those other movies that you named, you know, they're not going to leave you... These other two over here aren't going to leave you that happy either. They both leave you with a gut feeling in your stomach that it'll stay there for a while. But yeah, there's just something about these Mother movies. They ain't easy. They're not that family friendly, but nonetheless, curious to know people's thoughts on that one. Another short that is over on Netflix that I saw a lot of people were talking about, and it's actually produced by Laura Dern, I believe. Let me check my notes over here. Yeah, Laura Dern produced this one because I know she's doing a lot of work with the organization that helped fund this movie. It's a short over on Netflix that I think has beautiful animation of a couple who has lost their daughter, and while they're drifting apart, their shadows kind of like portray the things that they really want. And I don't want to give too much away because, again, it's just a short. But I will just say that you see a flag. And when you see a flag in a certain location, the fact that you automatically know what conclusions to jump to is just pathetic, I want to say. You'll know what I'm talking about once you catch it. 12-minute short. It is very hard hitting. So if you don't believe that shorts are powerful, they are. And just know that this could ruin your 12 minutes. This could ruin your day or make you feel a little sad. But I thought it was very well done. And like I said, Laura Dern produced it with an organization that's pushing a lot of what, you know, the theme in this movie is about loss. And it's kind of, I know it's already there in the description, but I didn't want to spoil the short for anyone who may have not seen it or didn't read that right there. But yeah, I'm curious to hear your thoughts if you catch it, Zach.
Yeah, I'll have to catch it. It's not that often that Netflix adds shorts anyway.
You know?
So.
Yeah, that's another thing that you and I are always bringing up about like where shorts get pushed and plugged in. And I think that streaming services are the best place to do that, because if we're talking about, you know, what are people on their phones the most for, It may be YouTube, which is already short, but it's even shorter with TikTok. So it's like all these streaming services, you would think that they would be banking on shorts like never before. You know, people wouldn't go to a theater to see shorts, but on a streaming service, you may not want to watch a 90-minute movie sometimes, but I guess a 12-minute short that may ruin your day and make you feel sad, it will be available. On the complete opposite end, logging some more over on Netflix, Jingle Jangle. Did you watch Jingle Jangle: A Christmas Journey, Zach?
No, I haven't yet gotten around to the John Legend starring. I'm sure will soon be a classic.
You're waiting for Christmas.
Yeah, I
waiting for the
want to get
fireplace.
into the spirit. It's not even Thanksgiving yet. You know, it's not
I
that
feel
time
you.
of year for me to watch the Yule log movie or whatever.
I feel you. It
Yeah.
was cute. You know, it's about an inventor and it's about creativity and inventing and all this stuff. It comes from the director who did. When I checked out the other previous stuff that he did, I was like, oh, okay, jumping on over. You know, he's done a lot of like Baggage Claim, Last Christmas, Almost Christmas. So he's been in the Christmas theme, just never so much, I'd say, it's family oriented. But I thought he did a decent job here. If this one was in theaters, I know it wouldn't have been everybody's cup of tea, but I think it fills that the Christmas Journey musical that a lot of people may want. Forrest Whitaker plays the inventor who loses everything when he invents this little toy, voiced by Ricky Martin, believe it or not. But when the toy realizes that he's going to be mass produced, he's like, nah, I don't want to be here. And he kind of dips with Key's character, and it kind of leaves him in the dust, you know. But I think the cinematography and just the behind the scenes, because I know that they had named a lot of the shops within the movie and a lot of little trinkets and stuff. They were based on African American inventors, so they were really pushing on this being very representative. And I think if you're looking for that winter movie, it's got the cinematography. You know, if you had seen this one in a theater at an AMC and walked out on a snowy day, I think it would have filled, you know, that winter season feel that you wanted. So you can catch that from home over on Netflix if you were interested in it.
Netflix has been putting out a couple of these Christmas movies. I think just yesterday they released Dolly Parton's Christmas on the Square, which I tried watching a little bit of that movie, and you know it's got this very artificial set, very like film theater production quality to it that was a little too cheesy for me, but a lot of people like Hallmark Channel Christmas movies and stuff like that, and I think it's got a similar kind of production value, and it's got sweet songs, plus it's Dolly Parton and other charismatic people, so it might be somebody's cup of tea. Definitely wasn't mine.
You know, yeah. Devesh on the chat says Christmas Chronicles 2 is another one that's coming out. Speaking of, the Princess Switch also had another one. I would say that's kind of like a holiday movie. They got switched again. We'll probably make a whole LME on that one like we did on the previous one. But yeah, you're right. It feels like they're taking that Lifetime model. They're taking the Lifetime Hallmark. And they're just putting it to Netflix because they know that they could produce it, I guess, a little bit quicker. But Lifetime's not backing up. I don't have those covered in here, but Lifetime has like a dozen Christmas movies coming out a day for the 25 days of Christmas. So, yeah, they're not messing around.
In the chat also we have Jeffrey Davis said that Jingle Jangle wasn't that bad. David Talbert has come a long way. David Talbert, also the guy who gave us Almost Christmas. So he's making a name for these Christmas-themed movies.
Yes, sir. Moving on with something that I guess is holiday-ish in the sense of this is where he had his, how do I spell heart wrong? I actually spelled it as a heart. As one of the performances that he has done. I'm not sure why it's not popping up. None of these are even here. None of these are his. Taking the long route over here. But Kevin Hart, he's got a new stand-up special. I don't personally think, just off the bat, I don't think it's his best special. Of course, he's got one called Let Me Explain. That one's pretty good. But yeah, this is his new one that he performed from his house, he said. Right next to a fireplace. Everyone is just in his living room, and they're all wearing masks. This one's out on Netflix. It's pretty much just him complaining about a couple of things. One, being canceled. Every comedian is just making jokes about trying not to be canceled. Personally, go ahead, make those jokes, but they got to be one thing, Zach. What do they got to be?
Funny.
That's it. That's all you got to do. He comes back, serves up jokes about his kids and stuff. And I thought a lot of them were pretty hilarious, but I think a lot of the time it just relies on like the yelling aspect of it, or like, I'm Kevin Hart. And I don't want him to rely too much on, I'm Kevin Hart. I want him to be able to build more jokes and flesh them out a lot. But he kept relying back on the like, I might get canceled for that one. It doesn't matter. I'm going to do it. And it's like by the fourth time you do that, it's like, yo, I'm here watching it. Like, for the people who aren't canceling you, who are watching this, they don't care about that stuff. Just stick with the jokes. But
The
he's got some
people
good
who
bits in
seem
there.
to find cancel culture the funniest are the male comedians mostly who joke about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I guess he's still upset. He lost the Oscar one, but he still had the chance to keep it. He just
Yeah.
didn't want to. But hey, he hasn't been canceled. He's got a whole other special out on Netflix right now that you can check out. He's got some good bits in there. The Jerry Seinfeld one I thought was okay, but he brings up a great point. Zach, because he was in an accident. Do you have, let's call it, a butt wiper in your life? He really made me think about that. When push comes to shove, do you have someone who's going to wipe your butt? So I wish he was more on the I guess, introspective side of his comedy. If you had a butt wiper. But those would be the ones from Netflix that I caught. Moving on over to Hulu, because I know some people are already asking some of the stuff over there. Let's go through those pretty quickly. One of the ones that is nominated for, I keep saying nominated, but submitted for an international submission is The Mole Agent. I'm blanking on what country submitted this one.
Yeah,
over
same.
Here. But I know this was a submission.
I think it was maybe Chile.
Yes, it's Chile, because the documentarian has done so many ones. Let me run through some of the stuff that she has done. So, like, this one right here, La Once, is about a bunch of ladies who, since high school, still reunite every single month, no matter what. And he's like, I want to document those moments, right? I believe Los Niños is the one about a group of 40-year-olds who all have Down syndrome and their parents are gone, but they still want to prove to people that not only can they make it to 50, but they can do things on their own. So he's capturing a lot of people in Chile who may have stories that aren't usually told on the screen.
Yeah.
And
a lot of people maybe later in life as well.
Yeah, and that's exactly what The Mole Agent covers. I don't know if you want to break this one down, because I know you had caught it before I did.
Yeah, well, it's this kind of really interesting story about a man who is recruited to help kind of keep an eye on somebody by a private investigator, and it's sort of like he goes undercover into this old folks. Careful with the trailer music.
Oh, my bad.
But yeah, so he is checked into this old folks home, not because he needs to be, but because he's sent there to keep an eye on another one of the residents. But
Yes,
he
sir.
kind of becomes ingrained in this community, and it's this very quirky, delightful documentary that you could imagine Taika Waititi or somebody like that writing a narrative version of.
Mhm.
I thought it was a lot of fun, actually.
Yeah, I had just caught it on Hulu, which is why I'm recommending it as well. I thought they did a really good job at just getting like the little intricacies. At first, I was like, the moments that they were just getting were so raw. I thought they were hilarious, but it was a lot more emotional. I thought it was going to be way more goofier, and it does have the goofiness in there. I was laughing a lot, but they balance it well with a lot of the loneliness that is happening with a lot of these people in these elderly homes, and contrasting with another Sundance movie that came out. What was it called? We just saw it recently as well, that premiered at Sundance, about the Florida homes.
Oh, Some Kind of Heaven.
Yeah, Some Kind of Heaven. So, interesting double feature there. They're covering older people, and I would recommend both of them. I'm curious to see how far this one's able to go with the international run that it's doing. Hulu also had Tesla. I'm not sure how many people were able to catch this one. Another Sundance one. And I know there's several Tesla movies that are being done. I personally have another one that I'm going to shout out that I would prefer over this. But this one's not available on Hulu. It's the one by Michael Almereyda. I hope I'm saying his name correctly.
Yeah, Almereyda, I think it is.
I liked Experimenter. I thought that was a pretty good movie. I think he's made some interesting stuff. Marjorie Prime was one of the first movies I actually caught at Sundance up at the Mountain Resort. But this one is interesting because it covers Tesla in a kind of breaking the fourth wall, kind of pull up, even though I'm a character during his period, a MacBook and Google Tesla, and also Google, what's his name? I think they
Edison.
Yeah, Edison, but also the guy who ran Chase, and kind of just like showcasing the difference in like in history and how they look back on both of them. And yeah, it's interesting. The Tesla crew, the Tesla fanatics are out there. For a man who hasn't been here for a long time, I see this man getting way many more biopics to come. But I personally would recommend, if you wanted to watch a good Tesla biopic, The Current War, where he is played by, blinking who he's played by.
Was it Michael Shannon or Benedict Cumberbatch?
Can't remember. I think it might have been Michael Shannon. No. Man, I am blinking. I haven't seen this movie since last year. 2020 has been decades, but I believe this one's out on Showtime. But this is way better. I was able to catch the director's cut of this one, and it comes from a director who has made a movie that I absolutely loved. So it's interesting to see him not be pigeonholed to like one thing. He's been moving around and doing different things. And I would highly recommend this one if you wanted a Tesla biopic to catch over the Tesla biopic called Tesla. But it's so interesting. Check it out because it's over on Hulu if you wanted to stream it. I think it does some interesting stuff with the way that it showcases its narrative.
The biggest reason to watch it is probably just to check out director Michael Almereyda, who has a very peculiar way of doing these kinds of biopics. Even though it's a movie that's set almost 100 years ago, there's all these modern aspects to it, whether it's using the iPhone interface or talking about Google searches, as you mentioned. But even in stuff like Experimenter, he'll do that thing where he uses like a fake backdrop as the background and points out sort of like the artifice of these kinds of biopics. Experimenter is a very apt word to use because he is an experimenter in film form. So if you're tired of like a very conventional biopic, his movies are the ones to try to break you out of that rhythm.
Moving on to another one that I saw some people talking about in the chat as well. Run. I think the big one. I'm gonna test this out. Hopefully, I muted the iPad, so hopefully it plays it well. Let me know if you're hearing something. I saw them freaking out as well in the second chat that we got going on right now for this live stream. But hopefully, let me know, because I'm trying to put the trailer footage in there. I know that copyright's a thing as well, but switching in between that and the other one. Run, the new film from the Searching crew. Obviously, you and I are big fans of Searching. I feel like everybody says that in a review for Run. Really love Searching. Complete opposite over here. If Searching was considered an on-screen kind of digital film, this is full-out live-action, straight horror narrative thriller, where it's the complete opposite of a loving parent, I would say, or maybe too loving of a parent, however you want to see it. I think the trailer in and of itself kind of sets up a lot of the things to expect.
And you need me.
But I will say, performance-wise, Sarah Paulson kills it. I think everybody knows that she was.
The chat says they hear the trailer.
Are you okay, Mom?
Oh, okay. Never mind. I guess the iPad just is fighting its way through it. All right. Sticking over here with that. Watch the whole stream is blocked because of the trailers anyway. You can't get through it. All right, but continuing with Run, we all knew Sarah Paulson was going to kill it. She was going to be fantastic in it. Definitely want to make a longer video on this and the making of and stuff. But Kira Allen killed it. I had no idea that she herself, the actress, was in a wheelchair. So I was just catching this movie going like, all right, let's see how they're going to do this. With the movie called Run, I had my own expectations on where it was going to go and such. And I enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty good. We were able to get a screener earlier on, but we weren't able to say too much about it. But I definitely think this movie would have done, it would have been fantastic if it would have come out on Mother's Day. This is definitely one where the crowd that you're in makes the experience. And this would have been a fantastic midnight movie.
Yeah, it definitely would have been one that's fun to watch, like in a theater where people are like gasping along with you and stuff like that, because it's got twists and turns and like big moments. I think maybe something that it doesn't have quite to the level of Searching is that not all of those twists are quite as believable. I'd say part of it is like that keeping you in the atmosphere of the movie, keeping you along for the ride. They're not necessarily as successful with Run as they were with Searching, which is more to say like how good Searching was, that this one is more of just like a fun diversion and not something that I would see myself really returning to, even though it's really clever in some of its filmmaking and storytelling, especially the way that they're able to use their stars a wheelchair and a handicap to kind of limit her options in kind of a way that's like makes you figure out like how can she get out of these situations. But definitely a fun movie, definitely worth a watch, though not the instant classic that I think Searching was.
I did catch a couple of Easter eggs there, so don't get it twisted. I'm gonna, there was a couple of obvious ones in there, but I'm curious to see more stuff on the Gmails because I know they like to slip some in there. But no, I agree with you. I think this movie is definitely proof that they're not just a one-trick pony when it comes to. I'm pretty sure a lot of people pigeonholed them, especially with Searching getting a sequel as well. You want to prove that you can make these other type of movies as well. So I'm curious to see, what they come up with next once they start doing franchises, once they start moving into the bigger stuff. I know that they kept talking about Mission Impossible in a lot of their interviews with the stunts that they were doing there. Give these boys a Mission Impossible movie. I'm down for that. But shout out to Lucy. I would say I highly recommend her review. I think she put it into perfect words when it comes to the performance and what she saw in the movie. Definitely check this one out. I mean, Lucy pops out on everything if you're on Letterboxd anyway, so
Yeah.
But definitely check out her breakdown of this. I thought she had some really great words to say about it. But yeah, check out Run. That's over on Hulu. Watch it with your mama. Last thing that I caught over on Hulu is the 6ix9ine doc, which I've had my thoughts on this, man. I'm curious if this even pops out. So many people just making different types of lists on 69. 6ix9ine, the saga of Danny Hernandez, that came from director Vikram Gandhi, who did that biopic, kind of, the feature about Barack Obama growing up that I believe showed at Sundance, and he's made a couple of other documentaries as well.
He also did a bunch of work on the Vice TV show, which I won't show up on Letterboxd, but he's done some of the more investigative episodes. Yeah.
So he's like, he's not a bad filmmaker. So I was very curious to see why he was approaching this. What was the point of it? Especially because this is a YouTube video. I believe I've even written this YouTube video. Several people have written these videos on 6ix9ine as well. Pretty much the idea of he's the troll, right? But he is in fact trolling himself. He is owned by, we talk about music and who owns masters and stuff, and really who is the person who's running everything. His boss, right, is the employer of, he's the son of the head of Warner Bros. So it's not like he's in this own independent company. The head of Warner Bros has a kid, and pretty much that guy is running this, and all they thrive on when it comes to the SoundCloud wave is them doing the craziest stuff. They reap up all the rewards, and, what he really breaks down well in this documentary is how this is a character who, from his days at the bodega working, knowing that he could just get a reaction out of somebody, how bigger can that get over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, right? When it comes to the internet, that's more people you can reach. All you have to do is say something flagrant, something that can get people to turn. But the funniest thing is that at this point, it's not even benefiting him the most. Surprisingly, I don't think he said too much about the documentary as well, but it is a doc that isn't necessarily looking to make him a hero. It is dissecting, I guess, the rat that he is, dissecting the troll that he is, and dissecting how, at the end of the day, he's just doing anything to be able to get his name out there, and that's not going to necessarily result in longevity.
Totally.
So there's that. Let's see. Another movie just to recommend because it's over on Hulu as well as Sputnik. If you haven't caught this one, this was a Russian, very alien homaged thriller, sci-fi thriller. I would recommend that one. We brought it up earlier in one of the live streams, and now it's available on Hulu for you to watch. But let's move over on Prime because they started up their Small Axe series. Zach, talk about this one, starting off with the first episode they got.
Yeah, so the Small Axe series are 5 movies that are coming to Amazon over the next few weeks. One of them, Mangrove, is available now. The next one, I believe, is Lover's Rock, which will premiere this Friday. We've seen a couple of these so far, and they're all excellent. Mangrove, in particular, is a really stunning episode of this. It's the longest, I believe, of all 5 of these new movies from Steve McQueen, chronicling the true story of the Mangrove Cafe, which was this cafe that was subject to all of this police scrutiny, and they would routinely get abused, and eventually resulting in protests that saw some people taken to trial. So you have this civil rights film on one hand, but it evolves into this courtroom drama told in a really riveting fashion by an expert filmmaker like Steve McQueen, featuring a lot of just excellent performances here. Letitia Wright, in particular, stands out as this young revolutionary. I thought this was maybe the standout so far of the Small Axe series. How about you, Art?
I thought this one was really great. Surprisingly, it is my third, and that says a lot, for this to be my third favorite, and I still think it's worth 4 stars. You said Lovers Rock comes out next week, right?
Yeah, Lovers Rock will
Okay,
be
so I'm
out
gonna save that one
Friday.
for then, as well as because we were given 3, and I've logged, I think, the 3 that we've gotten now that we're including this one. No, I thought this was fantastic. It may get a little too muddled in the court drama at the end, but to be honest with you, I preferred that court drama over the other Netflix court drama that we were given not too long ago, especially because it's based off a true story, like you said. And no, Letitia Wright gives a fantastic performance in this movie. It's infuriating as well, but very well made, and it's a great start to the 5 episodes, which again, he's not calling it a miniseries. He's calling it a collection. It's pitched as a miniseries, but at the same time, film festivals played them as movies. So I'm very excited to have these 5 Steve McQueen features coming out on streaming on Amazon Prime in 2020. Comfort of your own home.
Crazy.
So
5 Steve McQueen movies in 5 weeks.
Zach, the year is 2013. He just won for 12 Years a Slave, right? And someone tells you, yo, before the decade's up, you're going to get 5 Steve McQueen movies in 1 year, back-to-back-to-back releases on Amazon Prime. You'll be like, what?
Don't believe you.
I would not believe you either, but it's happening, and be excited because some fantastic stuff coming up. Really like this one as well. What else we got on Amazon? Let me see. 2 small movies. Then we'll talk about some stuff on HBO, Apple, then answer the live chat because I see some people bringing in some questions in there as well. They don't know if we're in the first chat. They don't know if we're in the second chat. But I'm going to try to read both chats, see what we can get. Really quick one just to log in over here in case you're interested in these movies. Avenues, maybe? It's a movie that's out on Amazon Prime directed by Michael Angarano. You may know him from several movies, but this is his directorial debut. But it's him and his buddy from Sky High. Stanford Prison Experiment, Red State. Like, these guys have been in so many movies together. Let's see, I pressed it, I liked it. I did like it. Good thing I did like it. Can you imagine me unliking the thing at the moment right now? No, this is a movie that takes place in New York. It's very Woody Allen-ish. In every interview, they keep getting asked, is like, was Woody Allen an inspiration? I mean, it's very difficult if you're playing 2 guys who are finding romantic love interests in New York City, may have even taken place during a blizzard, that you're not going to, relate it back to a Woody Allen movie. But both of these dudes, Nicholas Braun being the other one, many of you may know, always playing his goofy self. As you know, he plays a sex therapist or a therapist of some kind, who is just terrible when he's not on the job, which is not something you want to hear about a therapist. But it revolves around the story of Michael's character, who, again, wrote it, directed it, stars in it, and just kind of the troubles that he's going through after the passing of a relative, and while he's trying to also start up this new relationship. I thought it had some pretty good dialogue in it. I would recommend it. It's even in a lot more other places. It's playing on Peacock. It's playing on Tubi. It's playing on Hulu, as you can see over here. I had caught it on Amazon Prime, so several avenues to watch Avenue. There you go. Rook. Curious to see where else this one's playing. This is a shout out to a super indie that I was able to catch this past weekend. I was able to catch it on Amazon Prime, but it may be playing in some other places as well. It's a heist movie. You can rent it on Vudu. You can rent it on Amazon. It's this little heist movie about this Colorado kind of drug deal gone wrong, where you're following 3 different people. These 2, I guess you want to call them rednecks, who are causing all this havoc. It's an indie movie that's trying to get the feels of like the Coen brothers. I felt a little Boondock Saints, but in Colorado instead. I really like the energy that they were coming in here, where it's clearly, I think it was 12 days that they shot this. They used a bunch of locals as well. But I'm always curious to see somebody getting a group together to make a movie on a very low budget, to see what they can come up with, taking it for, what it's worth, and hoping to see what they do with a bigger budget. So shout out to the people over on Rook. If you wanted to catch a nice little thriller with some comedy in there, I would check this out over on Amazon Prime, where it's playing right now. I know this had a VOD release not too long ago, and that's the beauty of these streaming services. You may not get it as a rental or such, but then it appears on the streaming services. And I'm curious to see what they do once they have more money. So shout out to Not Stephanie Meyer. What? Yo, they're glitching over here. I know for a fact Stephanie Meyer didn't direct this movie. Oh, that's funny. Stephen Morgan. Oh, with the little glitch right there. Can you imagine thinking
That's funny.
thinking that this is like a Twilight movie? It is not. There's Stephen Morgan over here. Look at that. Budget so low they couldn't even afford the Letterboxd link. But check out this movie. Pretty decent independent film that's out there, giving you the independent streaming flick of the week. But to wrap it up, two final ones. Apple's got a doc called Fireball. Werner Herzog's little documentary about the fireballs.
Meteorites?
Meteorites that come from space that are all over the place here. He kind of covers it from the perspectives of different religions around the world and how they perceive these meteorites, the different cultures and how they see different uses, not just for the rock, but like how they build communities around where these meteorites have hit. Interesting. I have relatives who are really, really, really big into meteorites. I showed it to them. They were like, it's good. It's good. So for me, I was like really excited because I was like, yo, I got this screener. I'm going to show y'all a really fascinating documentary. And they were like, it's okay. It's good. It's covered some of the stuff. But I still think it's an interesting breakdown. You know, Werner Herzog just pretty much grabs the camera. He grabbed Clive Oppenheimer, who I believe he's worked with in some stuff in the past, but he was able to be the co-director on this one over here. He's done a lot of stuff with volcanoes. And I think they have a volcano doc over on Netflix. But, you know, Werner just grabs the camera and he just goes and he records.
Yeah.
You know, that's what he does.
He does the occasional nature documentary, and he always makes them a little bit more existential than the average nature documentary. So I'm always into an ethereal Werner Herzog narration over beautiful nature footage.
Yeah. So he's always working. This is like his third film this year. I know he had Family LLC. So if you're interested in a doc and you wanted something beautiful to look at, Fireball, Visitors from Darker World, and it's on Apple TV. So I know they stream their stuff pretty well over there. But the final one, it's HBO Max, because it's not HBO, it's HBO Max, which is funny because it used to be, it's not TV, it's HBO. Well, I don't know what they're calling HBO Max, but the Fresh Prince reunion. I don't know if you were able to catch this one. The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air reunion.
No, I've been seeing Twitter go wild about it though.
It was solid. It was decent. I think the biggest things, you know, let me cover it from the top. I thought it was really dope the way that they were able to break down and do a couple of montages to some of the best and greatest clips. I thought they did a great job at not just reminiscing on how a lot of them got to the show, but there was like little things about how Will used to memorize everybody's lines, and they would showcase how in some episodes he was still doing that. The behind the scenes to the dance, you know, to Jazz getting tossed out, obviously honoring Uncle Phil, but squashing the beef with the Aunt Vivs, I think, was the most important part, and they were able to do that. So I would recommend it for that. You know, they had their heartfelt conversation. But if you followed the timeline, just search up Will Smith, Janet timeline. They were going at each other's throats. So I will say it definitely looked like it was never going to come to an end, because they said that it was never going to come to an end. But luckily it did, because, you know, I think that was one of the biggest notches, I guess, to the show when people would like look back on it. I know that was something that really weighed heavy on the show, with her playing Aunt Viv early on, and then how everything fell through. But overall, I think it was a pretty good reunion special. I would recommend it, and, you know, it makes you want to just, with all the things that are streamable right now, just sit back and watch a couple episodes of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. So. Right.
And that's exactly the point of having stuff like this, because HBO Max is, you know, desperately trying to get people to watch those shows on those services. They were hoping to have a Friends reunion by this point. Obviously, that was delayed because of COVID, although I'm sure that's going to happen sometime sooner rather than later. I actually watched a few weeks ago, they did a West Wing reunion election special. Which, even though I don't know if HBO Max even has the West Wing, I know it's on Netflix right now. Okay. They're still getting those West Wing fans to potentially tune into HBO Max. You know, they're looking for more and more eyeballs, and they announced just this week about Wonder Woman going to HBO Max later this year. So,
dude, how is that not the biggest thing? You know?
Yeah, HBO Max is really trying to bring in the eyeballs and compete with the Netflixes and Disney Pluses of the world.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm excited for that one over there because it's time for these streaming services. They're gonna be going neck to neck at each other, so it's gonna get good. But we're gonna turn it on over to the chat. I know that the chat's not popping out over here because we had kind of like a double chat thing going on. So I know it ended up going to the opposite one. But if there is some stuff popping out on either the first chat or the second chat, Zach, I don't know which one you're looking at.
Yeah, well, we got a few questions asking if we're planning on going to Sundance next year. We were talking a little bit about that before we hopped on this recording. But Art, what is the plan for Sundance 2021?
Well, here's the beauty over here. Glad you guys asked that one. And that's why I like doing these little live streams over here. You know, I'm able to mention some of the stuff that's going on as I click the wrong Sundance. The Sundance Film Festival, I believe, is still going on next year, but completely online. This is what they're saying and everything that they've been pitching out to us, that they're going to be putting this whole bad boy out online. So if you are interested in going to it, that means it's going to be cheaper this time around because everything's going to be virtual. I'm not exactly sure how they're going to split some stuff into what would be, you know, the drive-in screenings that a lot of the Fall Fests have had. Because if you've ever been to Sundance, yeah, it's too cold to do that over there. So what I would recommend doing right now is going over to Sundance and just signing up for an account. Right now that they're setting up these accounts to, they got a countdown date. They got a little video that they're showing up. They got the new merch that it's decent so far. I'm waiting to see some of the other stuff. But they want you to create a brand new account. Even if you've been to Sundance in the past, it's a virtual account that they're creating. So having gone to a lot of the virtual fests, you know, we've seen different ones do different things. I'm very curious to see what Sundance does. You know, they were one of the last big festivals to actually be able to host physically in 2020. They were a hotspot of great films, but they're also going to be the first one coming up in 2021 to start up the new year as well. You know, that's usually what they do. I know even Slam Dance that happens in Park City pushed off. They won't be doing theirs during this time. I'm trying to find the dates over here. They won't be doing theirs during the time Sundance will be doing theirs. They pushed theirs off to February, and they're going to be over in Cali, I believe. So Sundance has these week or 2 weeks where they're going to go full virtual. So I'm very curious to see how they're going to roll it out. But as of right now, definitely sign up. It seems to me, going off of the South by prices, which is what I was telling Zach, that those $1,500 passes, maybe $500. Still expensive, but places like South by right now, that $500 pass is $150 if you go to it. So if you're curious to go get a pass of some kind, I would recommend going over right now because South by Southwest, like I said, they do theirs kind of tiered, which means that you're going to have an opportunity to buy it way cheaper right now if you get it early. And at $150, that's not a bad price because you're going to get all of the movies. So yeah, that's some of the festival stuff, I guess, to update you with right now that I think is definitely important. So if you're curious on Sundance, if you're curious on Slam Dance, if you're curious on South by, any of those, here's the price that I was telling you right here. Look at that. You know, this price I think goes for like $1,500 if we're keeping it real when it's the physical stuff. But right now, you know, it's down to $399. But right now, it's down to $149 if you act early. So for those of you who definitely want to hop on the Virtual Fest, I've been enjoying them. Obviously, it doesn't replace it, but it's still worth it. It's still worth it.
Yeah, and you also have to think that by next year, given that some films are going back into production and people have a little bit better idea of what the landscape actually is out there for a movie,
Yes, sir.
I feel like Sundance 2021 and South by 2021 are actually going to have decent lineups.
I hope so.
You know?
Yeah.
So might be a good chance to get a good deal on a festival that's usually pretty exciting and exclusive.
Definitely hop on that.
Yeah. Tushar also asked us thoughts on people saying that Shuri is going to be taking over or having a bigger role to play in Black Panther 2. There's been some news and rumors that with the next film set to go into production in July 2021, that Shuri will kind of take center stage. I think we want to talk a little bit more about this on Intercut, but I don't know if you had any brief thoughts on it.
If I know that was a push even before this year, so now they have the ability to do so, considering the fact that, again, we'll talk more about an Intercut, how they refuse to Jet Li the man. You know, they're not going to be doing the CGI Leia, so I'm happy to hear that, and hopefully that they're able to come out with a good story and they're able to honor his legacy as well.
Yeah, it's the best. It seems like maybe the best option available to them. You know, they're obviously in a horrible position, and you know, you gotta figure out some way to respectfully move forward. So that seems like a good course to me.
Yeah, I hope to do well with that. I had a question over here, a double one. Jeffrey Davis has said, "Have we seen the Animaniacs?" And I had actually, as I was prepping the show earlier on, that's probably why I ended up with the two chats. I was watching an episode of Animaniacs. Hilarious, bro. They brought back Pinky and the Brain. Fantastic stuff. Fantastic stuff. Well, I'll be covering it probably more on an intercut once I finish the series. But have you been able to catch any?
I haven't been able to catch any of the new stuff, but I loved the old show, so it's only a matter of time. I'll catch that too.
Yeah, they were fantastic. Ismael had also asked if we had gotten any Barnes & Noble stuff, considering the sale that happened.
Any Criterions that through
sir.
that, because they always have that 50% discount or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm. You got anything?
No, I'm saving up right now. I'm not splashing on the Criterions, although I do want that Minding the Gap Criterion.
Yeah, that one's really sexy. I wanted to get the Parasite one. Surprisingly, I ended up with 2 Criterions, but I don't think were a part of the sale. It was part of my David Fincher pickups. I ended up getting The Game, which actually came in a Criterion set, so that was pretty dope. And I got another movie. I'm blanking on which one it is, but I'm accidentally collecting the Criterion collection, and they get you, man. Those spines have the number on it, and you're like, damn, I'm missing 1,476 of these. I feel like I need to collect 1,476 of these. So I could definitely see the obsession that comes with it. But so far, I've just been picking some of the ones that I need on rewatches, and I'm curious to explore all the special features because, I mean, that's one of the big reasons that I love the Criterion Collection stuff, because they actually give you a full product.
Mm-hmm. And put the effort into making sure that
yes, sir.
Those are worthwhile. Prano had asked, what's the cringiest movie you have watched to this date? Any particularly cringy movies that you can think of? For me, the thing that comes to mind when I think about cringy movies are that wave of really bad parody films we got in the late 2000s, like Superhero Movie and Date Movie and Meet the Spartans.
Yes, sir. These are
like
trash.
That, yeah.
You mean all these right here in the recommended?
I would. It must have been embarrassing to make. They're embarrassing to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree with you. Mine would have been this one.
In the same vein.
Absolutely hate it. Someone was trying to defend it this past week. Man, I logged off of Twitter. I don't do that a lot. I stayed on Twitter through the whole presidential election. Someone tried to defend Movie 40. I logged out.
Yeah.
Still not a fan of this one, but I agree with you on these as well. Just trying to cash in on the stuff. And I'm of the belief that, just a turnover on these. YouTube was doing it way quicker, So by the time that this was shot, edited, and released, the jokes, they were so stale it didn't matter.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Juan asked if we have plans on seeing The Crown. I don't know if you've caught any of it, but I believe it's back for now its 4th season.
Yeah.
I almost wonder if would you even start watching a show if you've already missed 4 seasons of it?
Kind of, only because I know how many people like this. And I have been tempted to sit down with it. I did see a couple of the episodes from the first season, and I think it's a solid show. I just have not been able to sit with it. But I'm not gonna lie, Olivia Colman makes me think it's worth sitting down and stopping all the other streams that I have going on. But I feel you. Yeah, it's daunting to fall behind on an actual long series.
Yeah, like this one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I really want to do like a Lost rewatch with Caitlin, but just finding the time for all of it.
Let's see. Meman had said, let's punch aside all of the terrible questions. As he responses, anything question. If someone stole your blanket, would you go on a murdering rampage? My cobija. If someone took my cobija, let me see. Nah, we got to spare. We got to spare. Because then I'm gonna end up, they're going to lock us up. And, unless it's the platform, they won't let you bring that cobija in. You can't come in with your samurai blues.
You got to think long term.
You got to think long term for the blanket. So can't do that.
Marks asked what movie to watch right now while going to bed. Something similar to the Fargo TV show or something. Is there anything that you watch while you go to bed?
That's similar to the Fargo TV show.
That seems way too involved to watch while you're falling asleep.
Watch The Leftovers as you go to bed. Let that marinate your dreams. I don't know. That's an interesting one. I guess I've been catching a couple of stuff on HBO, which I guess would be more of the show stuff. Watch Succession as you go to bed. Watch Succession as you go to bed, so then you wake up ready to tackle the world. And by tackle the world, you rip off and take advantage of everything that's in your way. Yeah, I don't know. That's an interesting one. I mean, there's a couple of stuff with the age of streaming. It's literally anything that you have on. So,
Right.
but I would recommend Succession.
I like watching The West Wing sometimes when I'm falling asleep because that like Sorkin dialogue, fast pitter patter, sort of becomes kind of mindless and easy to tune out as you're losing consciousness.
I see what you mean. Let's see. Ismail had a pretty good question. How do you balance watching new releases and older movie classics that you want to watch? So for me personally, I've learned that it's like I want to make sure that for the week, and that's what this show helps out a lot more with, balancing, capturing all the movies that we just logged, and then, trying to set up the show so we don't got the double chat. But I like to, as I'm watching movies, so let's say, Run wouldn't fully count because I've already seen the previous stuff. But say I click them, right? I would want to watch the previous works. So whenever a new work comes out, I like going back. So that's kind of how I judge my older classic rewatches, is that when there's something new, I go back. Because if I'm doing like the classic ones and then the new ones, you end up with too much of a list.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be able to log everything in time. So it's really just a balancing game. It's knowing that you don't want to make it so much of a route. I don't want to call it a routine. You want to still enjoy it, and I found that that's the best way to enjoy something, is that when a new project comes out, I like going back and rewatching, any of the older stuff that they have done, because it also gives you a great sense of what, this newer project is as well. Like, for example, here, to go back and watch some of these whenever they're available on the streaming services. And that's why I like Letterboxd so much, that you can click on this and see where it's playing, So Canopy is very similar to Hoopla, where as long as you have your library card connected, boom, you're set to go.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier that you'd picked up some Fincher DVDs. That's because we are doing a bit of research for when Mank is coming out.
Yep.
So that's kind of a great way to go about catching up with some older films, is if there's something new coming about, and either it's referencing an older film. Like I remember I hadn't seen The Long Goodbye, and everybody said that Inherent Vice was supposed to be similar to The Long Goodbye.
Really?
So that became my reason to catch up with that movie.
Yep, there you go. That's perfect. Yeah. No, I agree 100%. That's how usually I'm able to keep up with some of the stuff. Let's see. What are the questions we got over here on the chat? Someone had asked if we had seen At Night's Servant.
Yeah, you said you liked the first season, I think. I haven't caught up with it yet.
Yeah, I wasn't able to wrap up the first season yet, but I really like what I was seeing.
Okay.
And then I know that there was some controversy that happened behind the scenes, so I'm excited to
Yeah.
I'll cover that in a video fully, probably as we approach the second season. Maybe we'll even be able to get the second season early through Apple, but I'm excited to see where he's gonna take it. It's cool to see M. Night doing a show.
Red asked, what are good psychological horror films?
Ooh, Ari Aster's always one to throw out, for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know what else you got.
Ari Aster definitely seems like the king of that right now. Earlier, we were talking about Sean Durkin, and he made that movie Martha, Marcy, May, Marlene, which is maybe my favorite of the psychological horror genre. Just as that's not a movie that has a lot of horror in it, but it messes with your mind so much.
For sure.
And I think Alex Ross Perry is another one who does stuff that's either psychological horror or psychological horror adjacent, whether that's Queen of Earth with Elizabeth Moss, or even Her Smell is kind of a horror movie in a way.
It is. I agree with you. And even keeping up with some of the directors that we were just talking about. Yeah, Her Smell. He's done it. He's done it a couple of times over here for sure. I was going to say Mother. We were just talking about Darren Aronofsky's Mother earlier when we were talking about all the other mothers, and that's psychological to the max as well. There's several. I'm sure if I had a list that I was making, we'd have a long one. Let's see. Someone had asked, have you seen Patrick from this year? Sounds really wacky. If we're talking about the same Patrick, I believe I was able to catch that over at Fantasia Fest.
Yeah.
Which we talked a little bit over on Intracut as well. But yeah, as you can see right there, I have seen Patrick. Really enjoyed it. I would recommend it.
Yeah. That was, I believe, in your top 3 from that festival. So
really liked it.
I want to catch up with that as well. Interesting question in the chat. Mon N asked top indie Christmas movies. We get a lot of Christmas movies, but not as many indie ones. I don't know. It's also, what is your cutoff for an indie Christmas movie?
True.
How indie does it have to be? But I wondered if you had anything in mind.
Of a Christmas movie. Off the top of the head, probably. Yeah, I don't know, because I'm thinking of a couple, but I don't think they're considered indie movies, if that makes any sense. So I'd have to come back to that one. Yeah, I don't know.
I got one. Joe Swanberg did that movie with Anna Kendrick and Melanie Linsky, Happy Christmas. It's a very slight movie, but cute and interesting. I dig that one. I'm a guy who actually quite likes Joe Swanberg's movies, even though they're very mumblecore and stripped down and bare. But this one felt very, very real to me and has good performances in it.
Oh, and it's on Tubi right there, which Tubi's free. You just got some ads there, but you can catch it for free. Devesh has a good one. Thoughts on Fincher's Joker comments? Dan Murrow thought he was actually praising the film. Where do you guys stand? Have you been able to read the Joker comments fully?
No, I'm so out on Joker dialogue that I kind of
How dare you, Zach?
turn away from it.
You need your notifications on at every step of the way.
I usually am up on anything that Fincher says about other things, but I don't know. My Joker, I don't know. What did he say? Tell me.
Why
catch me up.
does David Fincher hate Joker? I think that they may have taken his comments a little bit. Like, he was saying something, and then someone said, you see? It's like you walk into a house and you say, something got spilled, and you say it smells. And then someone goes, he hates my house. He thinks I'm a slob. I think he was comparing it a little bit to previous movies and how it was dealt with, how it deals with the mental illness side of it. I believe this is the quote right here. I don't think anyone would have looked at that material, So the context of what he's approaching it as. I don't think anyone would have looked at that material and thought, yeah, let's take Taxi Driver's Travis Bickle and the King of Comedies Rupert Pumpkin, two characters played by Robert De Niro, who also appears in Joker, and conflate them, then trap them in a betrayal of the mentally ill and trot it out for $1 billion. Is there different ways to read that? Oh, of course. And if you're for Joker, you're going to read it that way. If you're not for Joker, you're going to read it that way. I personally don't really see it, but I also don't really care. And I think, who cares less? David Fincher. If I've learned something from Fincher, he cares even less about it. But it was the new thing for the week to run on whether he hated it or not. But I did find the conversation interesting because he talked about what it was like in the 90s to get things off, and to compare Joker to Fight Club, I think is a little different because of how Joker was made and the idea of taking an established IP and then a story like Fight Club, whereas Fight Club became established IP. There is Fight Club 2, there's Fight Club 3, not as movies, but as comic books right now. And just that idea of making something more original is a little bit still harder than playing the IP game, which, coming back to the Animaniacs, they had a great musical number in the first episode talking about that. That kind of wraps the stuff up here. But yeah, I mean, I know this is the first time you're probably seeing it, Zach, but if you had any thoughts on it. Yeah, David Fincher should be canceled, Zach.
I mean, I don't disagree with him in that it's a betrayal of the mentally ill in some way. Its depiction is very limited and potentially harmful, but it's a lot to take out of like 3 words in what could be an offhand comment. I could see this just being something David Fincher rattled off and not something he's thought deeply about.
He was just thinking it off the cuff. He didn't really care. But yeah, let's
Dragon
take a couple
Animations asked, do you think New Mutants would have been improved if they allowed it to become a trilogy?
I can't say substantially, but it would have been cool to have some of the scenes. Some people have said it's like, oh, it doesn't matter that some of the after credit scenes were cut. Zach, a Marvel movie and after credits, do those 2 words go together? I would think it does, because what you're going in for now is different, right? If you're comparing it to like a cinematic piece or whatever. No. You're comparing this to the superhero movie genre. And that is one of the components of the superhero movie genre. And that was cut out of it. A lot of the cameos and stuff that we would have seen was cut out of it. I don't think Josh Boone is a bad director. Man, was I excited for that cast. I had posters of this thing. But at the end of the day, a lot of it was stripped back. And it would have had a better chance of growing and building a bigger audience. Being able to flesh out its story. I would say that.
Yeah.
Let's see. We'll answer a couple more and then wrap it up.
Eli asked, anybody have any comedy TV recommendations? I kind of need one. I've been really into I finally finished up The Great on Hulu.
Okay.
It's one that took me a little while to get through because it's hour-long episodes and 10 of them. But I just think that show's very clever, and also its story is very well done in the way that it'll be characters constantly undercutting each other in their scheming. So I'm very curious to see how that show continues to develop from Tony McNamara, same guy that wrote The Favorite. And I've also just got around to watching How To with John Wilson.
Tell me about it.
I mean, this is your thing right now, so I want you to go in.
No,
but,
I've already talked
hilarious.
about it. I want to hear other people's opinions about it.
It's absolutely hilarious. Just his ability to break down these subjects in these very particular ways and mannered ways. It's got this awkward quality to it that is hard to define, but makes you uncomfortable but laugh in certain parts. I don't know, man. He's doing something that is very unique to him, and it's so hard to put a finger on it, but it is so entertaining. Especially, that scaffolding episode is excellent.
Mm-hmm.
That fourth episode is absolutely nuts.
Yes.
Yeah, it's one of the funniest things on TV right now.
I'm always looking forward to sitting down and watching an episode of this bad boy, so I'm glad you mentioned that. I thought, yeah, absolutely love this one. Fan-freaking-tastic. Someone had asked, I know, because a couple of people were giving us some recommendations, so I just want to mention those really quickly. Someone had said, as I look over here, if we had seen Calm with Horses. Not yet, but that's one that I wanted to catch since it premiered at TIFF in 2019. Someone had also mentioned if we had seen Industry, which I know is over on HBO. They had a couple of episodes at some film festivals, and every time they have an episode, like a pilot, screening at a film festival, it does make me interested in the show, so I'll be catching that one.
I caught the first episode of it.
And you did? What's up?
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. It's a little bit dense, but I think a lot of the shows that it's reminded me of are similarly dense, and I think I might need more to fall into the rhythms of the show. It's interesting that the questioner brought up both Euphoria and Succession because it's got elements of that, since it is in this like high money industry, but a lot of it is about the kind of extracurricular, sexual, and drug related activities of the people in this community. The first episode was actually directed by Lena Dunham, interestingly. And
okay.
I think you can see bits of her directorial style in the intimacy with which the pilot gets into these characters' lives, how it brings you into like very private situations and very intimate thoughts of these characters. It's the ways in which they're maybe hiding under a little bit of a harder shell. So I don't know. I'm curious to check out more about it. It's got an interesting cast of characters and an interesting start point, but I don't know if I know much about the show yet.
Gotcha. Should I play a trailer, Zach? Should I play a trailer full volume?
Double volume if possible.
I'm curious to see that one. Should be pretty good. Yeah, there's a bunch of people recommending like The Undoing, and I know that a couple of shows that we had talked about previously as well. Someone, Jeffrey Davis, had mentioned when we had talked about John Wilson last week, how Nathan Fielder's a producer on it, so it definitely has those vibes as well. Again, highly recommend John Wilson. I'm glad you caught it. But let's see. I'm going to wrap it up here with Ismael's question. He says, when are we going to get a weekly movie club where we can all watch and discuss a movie together, both giving y'all more content and more fan interactions? One of the big ones to catch right now, like we were mentioning, we really like doing the brackets. If you've caught the intercuts, we do a bunch of brackets when it comes to pretty much directors. I think are the best ones because you're able to fully hone in. When you're doing a bracket and someone goes, oh, but that doesn't count, they're different. Well, when they're the same director, you know what you're breaking down. So David Fincher's going to be the next one. So definitely head on over and watch all the David Fincher movies that you can leading up to that podcast. And then, yeah, we'll do that. I'll be announcing what we're doing here for the next one. And then, every week we'll try to do whenever a specific bracket comes up and kind of play that as the movie of the week type deal. So yeah. I think David Fincher's, what is it, 6, 7, 8? How many does he have?
He's got 10 features at this point.
So that's a good amount to watch. I'm very excited. I have not started it yet, and I know we record next Monday.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited to sit down. Like I said, I got all of them about all the Blu-rays that are all standing out there. Absolutely no digital copies. Like, I don't know what world we're living in. David Fincher, of all people, did not have digital copies when he's the most digital filmmaker, biggest prolific ones that I know about. But got them all on Blu-ray, got all those special features. Excited to catch them this upcoming week. So yeah, if you are looking forward to kind of having a say in the podcast as well, definitely check out the David Fincher stuff and get ready to debate, because that's gonna be a good one. We're gonna have some good guests on that one as well.
Absolutely.
But no, we appreciate everybody being on here for this one. Hopefully next time we will have one chat and not two chats.
Yeah.
And that way it could appear up on the screen. But we appreciate everybody who's been watching this one over here. Shout out to the movies of this week. Like I said, we have our favorite ones recommended down below. You can catch all of our thoughts over on Letterboxd. But the three big ones that I wanted to note was The Climb, that's out on VOD. And then the two Hoopla ones that came out of South by, the Donut King documentary about the guy who just made it with this purple box, or pink box that we all now know. Makes me hungry for donuts right now. And then Who Let the Dogs Out? I don't see how you can't find this movie enjoyable. Just an hour, 10 minutes over on, did I say Hoopla, Hulu? One of the Who's. It's out there as well. But
Hoopla.
yeah, thank you guys for checking out this video. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see y'all on the next one.